What is going on, everybody? Welcome into Fantasy Alarm Sports Talk. I'm Howard Bender. With me, James Babyface Grande. That's right. It's time to get down and dirty with the NFC playoffs. If you missed yesterday's live stream with John and Pemba and Jen Piacenti, they broke down the AFC. Uh, Much more entertaining games over there, in my opinion. James, I don't know how we ended up with the NFC. I probably should have just reassigned this, but nevertheless, well, because you know what? First off, how are you?
I am good, less baby faced than normal, but still good.
You'll always be
Um,
baby faced to me. Oh,
I
sorry.
I thank you. I appreciate it. I'll go back to the baby face persona soon. But work has allowed me to grow a beard, or what they call, if this is called a beard. So I'm just like taking full advantage of it right now.
There you go. Well, I'm sure the Three Musketeers are absolutely as well. It's kind of funny. I was looking through. You did the quarterback coach over at Fantasy Alarm. I saw that come out. And you look at the top tier, the mid tier, the value, and I see AFC, 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 AFC. So I mean, let's start here with the NFC because, in all honesty, I mean, we'll start with the Packers bye week, fantastic.
Yep.
We all thought there was going to be massive wins regression from them, and Aaron Rodgers just basically said "f you"
Yep.
and dominated. So let's talk about what we've got coming up here for the Super Wild Card Weekend, um, and figure out these games because, all right, Saints Bears. Then you've got Seahawks against Jared Goff and the Rams, if it's Jared Goff and not John Wolford. And then it's the Bucks against Washington. And while Washington's got a really nice front seven, I mean, I don't know how they're going to put up points on this defense, especially if they're talking about actually flip-flopping quarterbacks, and Alex Smith is going to be rotating in for snaps. Out of these three games this weekend, which do you actually see as not just being the most entertaining, but maybe the most that you want to like invest in for DFS?
Um, Probably Chicago, New Orleans, but it's a lukewarm take. I obviously we have to find out what the hell is going to go on with the New Orleans backfield. There's still nothing set in stone on Kamara. We assume Murray will be back just because he was, close contact. And he had I should say, a huge game against the Bears last year when Kamara was out. Has had some big games, we know, in the past without Kamara. We know Montgomery's been really good, but so has the Saints defense against the run, the fourth best run defense. So what's going to give there? Michael Thomas is slated to practice this week. I think that can be an intriguing DFS play. 6,400 on DK if he were to return could be interesting. I guess that would be the most intriguing game for me. The most intriguing team in general is probably Tampa, with the way Brady's looked over these last few weeks. I know he's played some cupcakes lately, but it took a while for Tampa to put two halves together for pretty much the whole year. I think that we've seen like one half of football pretty much in every game. I mean, the Chiefs game, one half, the second half, they looked great. They looked horrible in the first half. The Giants game, they looked great in the second half. So I think there was like a lot of instances. I think Tampa's rolling, and I'm not really necessarily worried about the Washington front seven here with the way that Brady's playing. And it's TB12 time, right? So I think the Bucks from a stacking perspective, and then the Bears Saints, I think there could be a lot of interesting options in the value tier. And you mentioned quarterbacks are all in the AFC that I'd want to play, other than possibly Drew Brees, who has looked decent since returning 2 games with 3 touchdown passes or more, and could be throwing a lot if there's no Kamara. So Bears Saints, lukewarm take, but that would probably be my favorite game to get the most exposure to here.
How much of an impact do you think? I mean, let's talk about the COVID aspect here because
Right.
you're seeing it in the NBA. We know that, and the way that teams are playing back to backs against each other now, and it's kind of turning things around a little. Maybe it's better defensive play. Maybe players are fouling out more because they're getting agitated a little bit more. Seeing the same guys. We're just seeing a lot of situations here where COVID is really rearing its ugly head on a number of things. And the question is how are Kamara and Latavius Murray supposed to or going to respond? Everybody's a little bit different here.
Right.
Like, could this end up being the big upset special if we're sitting here and Kamara and Latavius Murray? Let's say they're not even. Let's say they're playing, but they're not at 100%.
Right.
Is that going to really detract? Michael Thomas hasn't played in a number of games. We all
Right.
know that there's something going on between him and Drew Brees that kind of dates back to, preseason comments about kneeling and then turning around when Brees said with Thomas out, being like, well, we're going to be fine. We're not going to miss a beat here. And Thomas got pissed off at that as well. So I get it. It's the playoffs and business is business. But, I mean, could we be witnessing the implosion of the Saints and get like a really big upset here in the NFC?
I mean, I won't dispute any of that being the possibility. But at the same time, the Saints defense is still intact. And that's been the better unit between their offense and their defense all year long. So does the Bears offense threaten us enough to where we can be like, even if the Saints don't perform offensively, do the Bears outscore them? I don't know if that's the case. Trubisky has looked okay. David Montgomery has looked really good. I don't know how they move the ball. When they first played in week 8 or whatever it was, this wasn't the same Saints defense. They have gotten drastically better throughout the year. Marshawn Lattimore was horrible in the beginning of the year, and that obviously hasn't been the case. So I get it, and I think could be. I mean, if Ty Montgomery is the starting running back, they could be in trouble. But I just don't think the Bears have enough firepower to outscore the Saints. Yeah, just to get it done, even with all those pieces potentially missing. I mean, do you think Murray misses this game considering he was just a close contact? I mean, I get it. He hasn't practiced for some time, but he has gone through 16 weeks of practice and through games. Like, I don't think his endurance would be impacted by 1 week if he wasn't COVID positive.
Are we selling the Bears defense a little short here, maybe?
Probably. Probably a little bit. They were a good unit, and I'm not saying they weren't. I'm probably selling them. I'm probably selling them too short.
They gave up the 8th fewest fantasy points per game to running backs on the season. Right? I mean, we're looking at a pretty rock solid team as far as defensively goes, and you're looking at what they got. If you go to Pro Football Focus, they've got the 6th best run defense around. So listen, I mean, Kamara at his top performance, okay, great, fine, I'll put that against them. Latavius Murray, hasn't practiced all week, and we're just, he's not the same dynamic runner that Kamara is. So, I mean, I'm just kind of wondering there. Like, now all of a sudden, I'm like, depending on how COVID does, do we lean on the under in this one? Do we think that, that the Saints are going to be so thrown off what their normal game is? I mean, you could have Brees firing the ball over to Michael Thomas over and over again, and that's, right, maybe their bread and butter for this game here. But, at some point, you got to figure that the Bears secondary will try and go into some lockdown, double cover him, keep the safety floating behind him so that he doesn't get free. I think that's just a little something I think people need to be concerned with just overall.
I think you're right in terms of the under, though. Smash the under. 40. It's at 47, which is somehow the highest total we have in this NFC playoff picture. So I think smashing the under, regardless of how you view the outcome of this game, is the move. Because
okay.
I mean, like, if let's say Kamara doesn't play, and let's say Murray doesn't play, and Michael Thomas hasn't played since week whatever, is there going to be 47 points in this game scored with you just said, the Bears, you touted the Bears defense. I touted this. I don't see 47 points being scored. If any, I mean, maybe even if they all play, I'm not sure if 47 points are scored.
All right, so let's move off of this game for a bit. Then let's talk Seattle against the Rams. Russell Wilson's been playing like garbage. The whole Seattle offense has been playing like garbage. Rams defense, rock solid unit, great in pass coverage. Jalen Ramsey's going to blanket DK Metcalf again. Tyler Lockett is king of the boom or bust, and he just had a really good game. I don't know if he's even capable of 2 good games in a row.
No.
Right? So now all of a sudden, but then on the other side, Jared Goff is throwing. They're going to use him, I guess, if he is able to throw. I can't imagine, what this is going to look like. But then you're also dealing with, Cooper Kupp just coming back from COVID. Right. He just returned to practice today. Like this game here, I'm like, yuck and ew. I don't know which way to go. I mean, I kind of have to, pivot towards Seattle just based on experience and overall talent. But, man, I think that the defense for the Rams doesn't need to be undersold either.
I mean, they shouldn't be undersold because they were the number 1 ranked team in terms of DVOA this season, first against the pass and 4th against the run. So, or vice versa, might be mixing up, but either way, they're elite in both categories. Howard, the Jets were the only team to allow Russell Wilson to throw more than 260 yards since week 9. And we've seen this in years past where he just doesn't look great in cold weather. He started off the season great, nice and warm, nice and toasty, and then the weather started to cool down, and he's looked bad. And I hope for those who drafted him in fantasy, I hope there was a contingency plan for the second half of the year. I think that's good. That's a strategy moving forward. Draft a second quarterback if you have Russell Wilson for the latter stages of the season. I guess we do lean Seattle's way, but you talk about DFS, who do you want to play? Chris Carson's been underwhelming. You talked about Lockett. You probably just play the upside of DK Metcalf and hope he catches a long touchdown pass, because I don't see much else. You probably like Robert Woods. You'll probably like Cooper Kupp because they can catch those short intermediate passes, but it's not something that you're like, yeah, I think they're going to smash with a quarterback with a broken thumb and a quarterback that's played 1 professional football game. So definitely the ugliest game on the board in terms of betting, in terms of playing DFS. I don't want much exposure here. Just the big guns that, talent is talent. DK Metcalf can go for 150 and 2 scores because he's DK Metcalf. So that's probably where I'd limit my DFX exposure to the receivers and kind of avoid this running situation completely.
All right. So we're in the assumption here that the Bucs are going to get past Washington.
Yep.
Right. You got to figure, even as good as the pass rush can be, I think Brady was one of the lowest sacked quarterbacks in the NFL this season. I think he only got sacked 21 times. For that, I think that ranked 24th or 25th in the NFL. So if we're looking at that, then let's just say if the chalk hits in the NFC, Saints, Seahawks, Bucks, those are your winners. That puts the second round at Packers, Bucks, Saints, Seahawks. Which, let's talk about Packers, Bucks potential here, because the last time these two teams played, Aaron Rodgers had a really nice little tribute to a Key and Peele, sketch that they did with his little pelvic thrust move, and then he went in the tank completely for the rest of the game, and the Bucks beat the crap out of him. Does that happen again, or is this Green Bay team the team of destiny?
That kind of feels like last year. Technically it is last year, but it kind of feels like a different season. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers, who's gone on to throw 48 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and he had almost half of his interceptions in that one game against the Bucs. So I think it's a little different time of the year. I think the Bucs secondary has looked significantly worse. And Devin White is he's out this week, so I don't know if he's out next week as well. But obviously, it could potentially be a huge loss for that Tampa defense. I mean, the kid he's special in the middle of that field. So I think Green Bay. I'll say Green Bay runs the table in the NFC. No matter who they really play, I think Aaron Rodgers has really he's on a mission this year, Howard, and it's clear. I think he's my MVP vote. I know it's like, how do you not give a running back who has 2,000 yards the MVP? How do you not give Josh Allen, who took obviously maybe the biggest leap of any quarterback in the NFL? But I'm taking Rodgers as MVP. I'm taking Rodgers in Green Bay over Tampa to the Super Bowl, whoever they face after that Tampa team as well.
I opined yesterday on the Fantasy Alarm Show just for the fun of it. Like, could you imagine like Aaron Rodgers winning the MVP, leading the Packers to a Super Bowl championship, and then turns around to Green Bay and says, "You didn't get me any weapons. You traded up to grab my replacement. So I'll tell you what. Good luck with Jordan Love. I'm retiring on top." Like, there's zero chance of that happening because of his competitive nature. And really, what else is he going to do? Is he going to keep doing State Farm ads? It's just not going to be.
He's going to go join Pat. He's going to go on the Pat McAfee show full time, where he goes like every Tuesday and just talk to McAfee and then 24/7. That's what he'd do. And you say his competitive nature, but like he's pretty spiteful. Like that could actually happen. And I don't think anyone should be like utterly shocked by it. Like, just drop the mic and Aaron Rodgers, peace out. That'd be
Super Bowl MVP, everything. Like he gets it all. Like he walks away with like armfuls of hardware. He puts them on the podium and then he just says, "Thanks for believing in me at the tail end of my career. You're all a bunch of jackasses. I'm out." Right? And he just grabs them. He's got his rings clinking together, all of that. Would be interesting. All right, so you say Packers over Bucks, team of destiny. They win the NFC.
Yep.
But let's talk Saints versus Seahawks. If the chalk hits, you've got Saints versus Seahawks. Pretty much, I mean, at this point here, you got to figure, it's weeks down the road. The COVID situation for the Saints will be kind of, be over. Saints at full speed against these Seahawks who continue to struggle. Got to be the Saints, right?
Yeah, and they've been better defensively, Seattle has, but they're not going to be able to slow down New Orleans. And it's just Jamal Adams probably will have 3 more injuries by the time that they would suit up, because he just every week it's just an injury after injury. He might play this week, he might not. Who knows? But yeah, I would definitely favor the Saints in that matchup, and pretty comfortably, I think. Pretty comfortably there.
What about, all right, so if we're looking at that, and again, if the chalk hits in the NFC, it comes down to Packers Saints. Now you're talking about an elite runner of like Alvin Kamara, who can also catch passes beautifully as well. Going up against Green Bay, whose run defense has been extremely suspect. Like, how do we address, like, you're going to have Marshawn Lattimore all over Devontae Adams. I mean, listen, I'm ready to hand it over to Green Bay as well. I would love to see it happen, especially with the year that's gone on. But I mean, it's, a lot of people put the Saints actually above the Packers overall as far as like ranking these teams.
And there's definitely cause for concern, because it's not like Green Bay has only been bad against running backs on the ground. I mean, they allowed receivers to 90 receptions this year, and we know there's nobody better in the game than Alvin Kamara coming out of the backfield. So it's definitely a cause for concern. Do we see Kamara like unleashed? Like, he's had 20 carries just going through the game logs once this year, and it was his 6 touchdown game. Do they like give him enough work on the ground? I don't think so. And maybe that's their detriment here, where, Kamara should get 25 carries. against a poor run defense. He gets 15, and why are you going away from him? Why are we giving the ball to Latavius Murray so much? So I think the Saints fall in love and don't utilize him enough, and I think that could hurt against the run defense like Green Bay. And I still think when push comes to shove, if the Saints are trying to outscore Green Bay, they're not. With the way Rodgers is clicking, the way that Aaron Jones has responded the last few weeks, he's looked good. So, and obviously we know Devontae Adams is Devontae Adams. So I still favor Green Bay in that matchup. I don't think New Orleans utilizes Kamara enough on the ground. They obviously get him the ball quite a bit through the air, but 187 carries, there's no way that he shouldn't have been featured less than 200 times, 225, 250 times on the ground. Just, I get it. He wore down a couple years ago, but he didn't wear down this year, and that's pretty evident in 6 touchdown week 16. So I still favor Green Bay to go to the chip, and for Aaron Rodgers to retire. I can't get past that narrative. I'm all in. I'm all in on that. Rodgers getting all the hardware and just retiring right after. I'm telling you, I'm in 100%.
All right. Well, so then let me ask you this then. Let's if we're looking ahead to wild card weekend, because I mean, yes, I think this comes down to Packers and Saints. That's just the way the NFC is lined up. There's a lot less certainty in the AFC, but in this case here, you've got Packers and Saints are your top 2 teams, and then the other 5 teams that are in the playoffs here, to me, are all kind of on the suspect side. I think obviously Seattle's the one team who, if all of a sudden they started to click, and you've got Carson and you've got Metcalf and Lockett and Russell Wilson wakes up and this offense clicks, it's decent, but I mean, I have a hard time looking at, like, I'm just looking at my brackets here that I kind of scribbled out, and I mean, Washington and the Bears and the Rams, I just don't see it. I mean, if you had to pick one game where you would see a legitimate upset, and I don't consider Bucks over Washington being an upset, despite the seeding. I mean, come on, 11-5 and 7-9 doesn't jibe well with me. If you had to pick one who is the upset of the weekend, what would it be?
I'd go Rams over Seattle, and it's the Seattle offense has not looked good, and they're going against the best defense in arguably in football. So I think they can stymie Wilson. I mean, he had 220 passing yards against them the second time they played, under 100 or under 200 the first time they played. It's not a coincidence. They're not a fluke. I would go Rams because the defense, and maybe they can get the running game going, even if Jared Goff is not 100%. Plus, they have, if you look up and down the defensive units we have, they're definitely the worst unit in the NFC left, at least playing on wild card weekend. So I would go LA with the best chance to upset. I would go, like, if we're talking like sleepers, I think Tampa Bay is the sleeper of the NFC. I think Tampa Bay could be the sleeper that comes out of the NFC. And I mean, obviously all roads lead back to Tom Brady, but that offense has looked extremely sharp the last 2 weeks. So if they can keep it rolling, I think they could put up points with pretty much anyone in the NFC.
Do we need to put John and Pemba on any kind of a watch if the Bucks end up rolling through and end up winning the Super Bowl, and there's Tom Brady, in his beautiful pewter and red, or maybe they even go creamsicle for
what we are totally surprised, John.
He's yammering in the ear. We can't. I don't know if the world can actually hear what he's saying, but I can hardly understand him because it is coming through very heavy sobs. I do hear a lot of crying.
There was some crying. I definitely heard some weeping in the background. I think that was Dan Mellon actually as well on the call, weeping in the background. I think Dan and John were weeping together through the phone.
more devastating moment in the world today. John and Pemba having to watch, and Dan Malin having to watch Tom Brady win the Super Bowl, or the destruction that happened in the marriage of Kim and Kanye.
Very close. I'm gonna go with the former, but very, very close.
I mean, they're both great true love stories, right? Dan and John with Tom, and Kim and Kanye. I mean, my faith in love is like completely washed out now.
Yeah, Kim Ye no more. It's definitely a little upsetting, but I mean, hey, there's still hope for TB12. Kim Ye, we do not have any hope for her any longer, which, you know, R.I.P. to Kim Ye.
R.I.P. to Kim Ye. There's still a chance for hearts to break with that. All right, let's go to a couple of fun little, because we're all about the betting with our friends over at Wager Alarm as well.
So someone is drilling right outside my window. It is just piercing, the most piercing noise ever going on the sidewalk. I apologize to all those out here.
I actually don't hear it at all.
Oh, well, just my eardrums just bleeding currently. It's no problem.
Bleeding. Although maybe it's being drowned out by the fact that A, it's raining here, and B, John and Pemba is crying in my ear right now.
They're crying, yes.
About this whole thing. All right, here you go. Packers plus 450 to win the NFC. Saints plus 750. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, this is for the Super Bowl, actually. A conference winner. Conference, that's what I want. Packers are plus 140. Saints plus 275. Would you put any money down? Bucks plus 400.
I think if I would, I mean, I would eat the chalk there and go Green Bay, but I would throw some money down on Tampa plus 400. I think again, if this offense continues its trajectory that it's been on, I mean, we've seen the GOAT in the postseason. Let's just say that. So yeah, plus 400.
Don't ever call him that in my presence again.
Sorry, my apologies. The guy that is wearing number 12 in Tampa.
You call him Tommy Blue Eyes. You can call him TB12. I don't really care what you call him, but barnyard animals stay out of this conversation.
Yeah, I'd lay down plus 400 on the Bucks.
All right. Would you lay down on plus 1,000 for the Bucks to win the Super Bowl?
Ooh, beating Mahomes. I don't know about that one.
Oh, you're already locking in Mahomes.
Oh, we're locked. We were locked in. They won the Super Bowl last year, and then I locked it in right after the clock hit 0. So yeah.
Well, if State Farm has anything to do with it, because they didn't last year, they came close, but you get a little Mahomes versus Rodgers in the Super Bowl. Does State Farm hire Tom Brady if he wins the NFC?
I feel like it would be a missed opportunity if they didn't hire Tom Brady if he won the NFC.
All right. Well, there you go, guys. That's a wrap on the NFC. Again, yesterday's live stream, which you can find on Fantasy Alarm's YouTube channel. You should like and subscribe to Fantasy Alarm's YouTube channel. John and Pemba and Jen Piacenti, they broke down the AFC. James and I here with the NFC. And, we've got streams going on through the rest of the week covering you for both DFS and for betting these games as well. There's a lot of point movement going on right now with some of these games. So we'll take a look at that as the week goes on. But James, always a pleasure to get a chance to hang out with you here.
Of course, and you as well. And John, I'm sorry that you've been.
Stop crying, John.
I know, man. It's
so okay. Not becoming.
It's okay.
You're gonna get your eyes all puffy for the live stream for NBA later, dude. Gotta relax. You gotta relax. Oh, we're still live? All right. Well, then that's gonna do it for us here on Fantasy Alarm Sports Talk. For James Grande, I'm Howard Bender. Big thanks to the sobbing John and Pemba for producing.